Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com. In today's podcast, I wanted to discuss some news and then some more listener questions and comments. First, let's discuss recent news that KPMG is being sued over the SVB failure, which we predicted on this podcast. It's not too hard to predict that because whenever a really large company goes under and the Big Four accounting firms are the auditors, they are going to get sued. Because unfortunately, everybody treats an auditor as basically the in-house accountants for the company that goes under. And what the lawsuit alleges, and it names a lot of defendants: KPMG, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, some executives. And it talks about how there's securities issuances that were signed off on, and then audit reports that were signed off on, and how KPMG's audit report was missing a substantial doubt regarding SVB's ability to continue as a going concern. Which all sounds good, but the problem is, you have to remember, like, SVB was a bank run, and there's a lot of issues with SVB, but ultimately it's going to be the bank run that is going to be the defense of all of these people that they could not have predicted the bank run, which ultimately led to regulators shutting the bank down. And so that's going to be KPMG's defense. This is going to go on for years and years, just like we saw with Carillion and all these other cases that are just barely recently getting settled now. And they happened 6-7 years ago. And I'm sure this will be the same thing that happens here. I'm sure KPMG will eventually pay something out, because I'm sure there were some things that are missed or weren't done correctly. And it's not going to be until both sides get discovery that they figure out, what actual work was done, what could have been done. Because there's no way that KPMG's audit team did everything perfect. And unfortunately for KPMG's audit team on SVB, people are going to be tearing this up. So they're probably going to find something, but whether or not that leads to millions or billions of dollars of damages for KPMG is another thing. And KPMG has already been under extreme scrutiny from regulators. So I'm not sure what more regulations and sanctions can be put on KPMG. KPMG faces it all. And it was funny because I think their CEO was one of the CEOs that was talking trash about E&Y wanting to split up, but now you see why it's a potential strategy to split your firm up, because the audit side of your business is always going to be facing this down, and it's just going to bog your business down. Partners from the other parts of the business are going to have to put in to be paying out the legal fees for this, the regulation fees. Like, auditing is just a extremely risky business, a low margin business, and it just weighs down the consultants. But it also bolsters them in economic downturns like the one that we're currently experiencing or about to experience. So with that being said, let's move on. I think we can transition into listener calls, and that goes into, listener calls, listener questions and comments. I think there was one comment on YouTube too about promotions, because that's what I spoke about in the past couple of podcasts about promotions or moving up in the Big Four. And this person said that it takes longer than whatever I said to get promoted. And the person said that they think PwC promotes faster. And I've worked in the Big Four and Big Four industry for over 10 years. And it's not just PwC that promotes quickly. You have to remember that there's different practices, different lines of service, and different cities. And I can say each firm promotes quickly. And whether you think like let's say PwC promotes him to manager, and and the other firms all promote in 5 or 6. It's still proving my point. That's still a fast promotion rate compared to industry. Industry, you could be waiting 10, 15 years between promotions just because of the structure. Like once you reach certain roles in industry, like VP, then you're not going to get a promotion until you become like an executive, or even making it to VP in industry. Sometimes you just have to wait for somebody to retire. And you have to remember that people don't leave industry as fast as they do Big Four accounting firms. So if you're waiting on somebody to retire, then you could be waiting 10, 20, 30 years for, promotion. So to say that 4 is fast and 5 isn't, it just proves my point that either way, you're going to get promoted quickly. And 5 years to manager means that you got a promotion in between then to senior associate. And you might be waiting longer because even PwC now, you have the senior manager role before the roles above it. And so there's another step in PwC now. So even PwC, it takes a little bit longer to keep moving up. But even then, it's 3, 4, or 5 years between promotions, which is still quicker than a lot of industry places. So that just proves my point. And also, the Big Four accounting firms, you're still going to get promoted quickly. So that's what I was just trying to say there. And then there was another listener question regarding what they can do. What's like the best approach as an associate, like the things that you can do that are the highest impact. And I think the focus there has to be on utilization, staying within budget, and then making sure that you're not getting bad review comments on your projects. And basically what I mean by that is you're doing a good job on the things that you're preparing. And the way that you know that is by the nature of your review comments. But the review comment part I view as even less of your initial part of your career. What you really need to focus on is making sure your utilization is above the metrics that your firm requires. That's like the most important thing as a staff person, because if you're not utilized, then you're just not going to get promoted, because a lot of promotions in the Big Four are based on metrics, because the Big Four, as we speak about constantly on this podcast, are all about the revenue. And even though it might be fake revenue, the way they measure that is utilization, is hours charged at a billing rate. And the more hours charged you have at a billing rate, then the faster you're going to move up. If you're doing really great work, but you're 60% utilized, you're not going to get promoted. Unless you're just like a technical genius performing at you're putting out national papers that people are referencing in whatever area you're in consulting, audit, tax. If you're putting out national guidance that people are leaning on, if you're meeting nationally with clients and selling projects, but having low utilization, then it's fine. But otherwise, as an associate, you need to have over 80% utilization in most places. The closer to 100% plus that you are, the better. But the one caveat I'll put to that is you can't blow out the budget, because some associates come in and they just burn every code that they're in. This is a lot more rare than staff that are underutilized. Often there's staff that are underutilized and they face more problems. It takes them longer to get promoted. But there are some that blow out budgets and they meet their utilization metrics, but they blow out budgets. And if you blow out a budget, you'll still get promoted because you met your utilization metric. The problem is you'll burn bridges. You'll burn bridges and people won't want to work with you because they'll know you as the person that can't stay within the budget. So that's why, as a staff person, I want you to be over utilization and I want you to be in line with the budget. Always be looking at your budgets. And then if you're doing those and it's still really competitive to get a promotion, then what you need to do is make sure that you're doing well with your review comments. If you're not, then you need to become more technical in whatever area that you're working in and keep focusing on that. But if you're doing all that and you're still struggling, then it's probably in the problems in your group, and there's just going to be some political things that you have to work on. And that's where you have to assess whether you need to stay in your group and stuff. But those are the things that I would focus on as an associate. Like those are the core things that you need to focus on. And if you focus on those, then everything else will fall in place. But that's the podcast for today. Let us know if you have any questions. Go over YouTube, leave us a comment. We'll get to it if we can. And thank you for listening. And make sure to check out YouTube.